they win anywhere from $250,000 to $750,000. We just did a classic, the Arnold Classic in Columbus, Ohio, where the winner won $750,000. Now imagine, now 14 days later, the same winner, if he wins here, there's no guarantee because there's some really tough bodybuilders. But should he win today, then there's $1 million in 1 month. So imagine that I got $1,000 when I won Mr. Olympia, the last Mr. Olympia contest in 1975. And then in 1975 in South Africa. That's why I got into this bodybuilding business in the first place, was to go and do up the cash prizes. Now, they're winning $1 million in 1 month. I mean, think about that, how we have improved the sport and how the sport has grown in every direction possible.
I know it has changed so much. I mean, over 50 years you have been doing bodybuilding. Obviously, in that time, there's so much more knowledge now. So what do you think, guys out here, you know, women and men who are bodybuilding now, what are they doing that's maybe better than when you were doing it at the start?
Well, the first thing I have to say is that I've been doing this for more than 60 years. I've been, imagine that. I mean, it's like, for 50 years we've been running bodybuilding competitions. In 1976, I ran the first Mr. Olympia. Then in 1977, Mr. Universe, and then Mr. International. I mean, every year for 50 years we've been running bodybuilding competitions, and it grew into this expo, and then we're doing it worldwide. So it has been very, very successful. But the thing that really was an explosion in bodybuilding was the women. Oh man, it was like, because in the old days, this is not something that women did, to go into work out on their body, because women said, oh, I don't want to get muscles, and I don't want to get this, I don't want to get... But they found out that you can actually train to stay fit. You can train to stay firm. So the women started getting involved. And I remember that I was like the one that promoted bodybuilding for men. Then there was, we started, competitions for women. I was the first one with a guy by the name of George Schneider in Pennsylvania. We did the first Miss Olympia. And from that point on, the bodybuilding amongst women grew. And then Jane Fonda came in, and she did the aerobics classes for women. And she did all those videotapes, how to stay fit for women. And she really was very, very helpful to get women to pay attention to their bodies and to say, especially when she did this movie on Golden Pond. And she was standing there at the age of 50 with this bikini and looking great. So then people realized, wow, I can look like that when I'm 50 if I work out. So I think it created an explosion amongst women. And I always feel that no matter what men do, women can do the same thing. And they just have to train differently. But so I love the idea, and you guys should know that I'm a fanatic about equality. Because, but not just women and men, but in everything. In everything. To me, when a guy comes to me and says, I have a very successful gym, and I said, I'm so happy about that. I said, if you have such a successful gym, I said, you let people that are physically handicapped train and you are equipped for that. No, we don't do that. I said, well, I believe that everyone has the right to be fit. So if you're physically handicapped, you have the right to be fit and you have the right to join a gym and to work out. I say, do you let people in and give special classes for Special Olympians, for people that have intellectual disabilities? I used to be the trainer for not only the United States, but the world in powerlifting for Special Olympians. So I said, you have any facilities? You let people come in? No, not really, we don't cater to that. I said, well, then you can't call yourself a successful gym, because then you're only calling yourself a successful gym financially. You maybe make a lot of money with the gym. But in our sport, everyone has the right to be fit. And we have to make sure that everyone has the ability to go to the gym and to work out and to get the food supplements and all of that stuff. So we have to think about that, because not everyone is, perfectly developed. So we have to give everyone a chance. And so I have seen firsthand how challenging it is for those people that had in Special Olympics to just get a job. I saw how challenging it is for them to get an apartment, to get insurance, to go and join a club. That's why my mother-in-law, Eunice Kennedy Shriver, started Special Olympics back in the 60s, so that those people that are intellectually challenged also have a place where they can do sports. And so to me, this is what this is about. Our sport is to be about equality. And the great thing about it is that the message of training is equality. Because if you go into a gym, the 200 pounds on the bench press is going to be 200 pounds for everybody. Think about that. It doesn't matter if you're black or white, if you're a woman or man, if you're young or if you're old, if you're rich or if you're poor, that fucking 200 pounds is going to be 200 pounds. There's no break. And on top of it, you can't go and send someone else to the gym to train for you. Right? Like all the guys do, the executives, they got to call the flower shop and they say to the secretary, hey, get me some flowers for my wife for Valentine. But that's easy. But to sit down and to paint flowers, to make a nice card for your sweetheart, that's what I do. I'm a romantic person.
I love that.
I paint the cards, and I paint the Christmas cards, I paint the Easter cards. I'm not a good painter, may I remind you, but I at least try, right? And they love it. The kids love it when I do it for them. My ex-wife loved it when I did it for her. My girlfriend loves it when I do it for her. Everyone loves it. So I mean, it's a good thing to do. So this is why I say the weights. When you go into the gym, it's for everyone. It's the same weight. So the equality is right there. That's what I love about this sport. Is everyone has to do it.
Yeah, I never thought we'd be getting a round of applause for you being a romantic today, but this is great.
I always let a little bit of information about myself that no one knows.
Well, let's see.
Then
Let's see
the internet goes
what
crazy.
else we can get out of you in this interview.
You've never heard the Romantinator?
No.
I mean, what's the matter with you today?
I love.
I made that up just now.
Well, I think we should go with it. Just in terms of training, because I'm sure there are some people here that would like to know what you do so they can see if they can match it. What would be like a leg day for you now?
I don't train legs.
Okay, there we go.
I bicycle every day.
That's it.
And it is the reason for it is because, 10 years ago I was told I should get knee replacements from all the skiing and from running and the squatting and the deadlifting and the stunts in the movies and all that stuff. So I destroyed my knees and my back. And you laugh, but I mean, just think about that. In Terminator 1, I said, I'll be back. Now I say, oh, my back. I mean, yeah, this is not funny, I'm telling you.
Thing is, I tell you what, some of the stunts you've done are definitely dangerous. I mean, what is the worst injury you sustained on set doing all these incredible stunts?
Well, there's a lot of stunts that stunt people do, especially if it's a stunt that...
Can you get a stunt double that even is the same size as you? I'm sure there aren't many of them.
Well, now, yes, it's easy. Because now I'm not that big anymore. But it's a very good question because I tell you, when I did Conan the Barbarian, I was like, the body was exposed almost at all times. So they couldn't find a stunt guy that had muscles or a muscle guy that could do stunts. So I ended up with like 90%, 95% of it doing myself. Yeah, there was one scene, no, it was two scenes actually, that a stunt person did. And the rest of it I did myself. That never happened again, because then later on in the 80s, the stunt people started really becoming more and more muscular, and they started training, and then it was easier to find stunt people that were doubling me. But in Conan the Barbarian, I mean, all of the stuff on the horses, I mean, I tell you, I fell off horses during the sword fights. I was trampled by horses, and I was getting into accidents left and right. I had, the first day, I had stitches right away on the set. They were stitching up my back because this wolf was attacking me, climbing up these rocks. And they let the wolf go too early, and he jumped me and pulled me off, and I fell into a rose bush, into a rock, and all of a sudden I had to be stitched up, and that rose thorns all over my body and stuff like this. And the director came to me, John Milius. He came to me and he said, Arnold, just so you know, pain is temporary, but the movie will be permanent. So that was his way of kind of calming me down and making me feel good. But I mean, was just the first day. It was like this all the time during the shooting of Conan. But now, they are very, very good stunt guys that are muscular, and that are in shape, and that my height and all that stuff. And you know, now since I'm fatter, it's easier to find someone with a stomach. So it's not anymore as challenging as it used to be when you have 22-inch biceps.
I bet. You have mentioned Conan, and I'm sure everyone here wants to know, what is the truth? Is there King Conan coming? Are you going to be returning to that role?
Yes, it was. That is true, and you know, the movie wouldn't have worked if I would have done it 5 years after the first Conan, because the whole idea of King Conan is that he has been, for 40 years or so, the king, and he's older now, and he's not anymore in the shape that he was in his heyday, and now people are trying to take him out. And he's the king, he gets a little bit complacent, and he's tired of the job, and he wants to move on. And so there will be a lot of conflicts. You know, when you look at a movie like Unforgiven with Clint Eastwood, it will be along the lines of that, and it will be with, you know, just extraordinary battles. And so, interesting enough that all of a sudden, the film studios feel like that just to do a sequel or to do a copy of one of my movies doesn't work that well. They've tried it with Predator, they've tried it with Total Recall, and they've tried it with The Running Man now, and all of those films, and they feel like that doesn't work. You know, we cannot replace Schnitzel. And so now they're coming to me after all these years, you know, and they say, look, we want to do you know, Commando #2, and we want to do another Predator with you. And we already hired the writer and the director for Conan, King Conan. Next year you're gonna go and film King Conan. We will be ready, the script will be written, it will be prepped, and everything will be ready to go. So next year we're gonna do King Conan. So that is a reality now. And I'm delighted about it, because for the last 10 years, I have been saying we should do King Conan. And we should really get a great, great script written, that someone that really understands Robert E. Howard, that understands the artwork of Frank Frazetta, and to really get into it and to continue on. And I want to have John Milius, the director of Conan 1, be maybe the producer of that. And so it will be really fantastic. And I think there's a huge, you know, audience out there that wants to see that.
I think so. It'd
Yes.
be great, won't it? Conan was obviously one of the big breakthrough roles for you. It really was. But which film was it that stopped people coming up and saying, "Can I have your autograph, Mr. Schwarzenegger," as a bodybuilder, and suddenly they were asking you because you were a movie star?
It started slow, you know, the whole process was very slow, because I was starting to do TV movies first with Lucille Ball and Art Carney Happy Anniversary and Goodbye. And then I was doing Streets of San Francisco. Then I was doing Stay Hungry with Sally Fields and Jeff Bridges. And so as I was doing these movies, I think Conan the Barbarian was the big breakthrough, because Conan the Barbarian was a studio movie that was done by Universal Studio. And it was like a international phenomenon. I mean, it was #1 box office when it came out, and people were shocked. People were shocked. They said, well, who are these people? But what is Conan? And but the fans were just so fanatic. They went the first weekend 3-4 times to see the same movie, to see Conan the Barbarian. They loved it so much, and so we had the longest lines in front of the theater, and people in the press and everyone was shocked. So anyway, I think that really launched my real, my movie career as a leading man. And so from then on, it was, of course, Terminator and Commando and Running Man and Predator and all of those movies, so one after the next. So, so it was very clear that I was going in the right direction, and we created an era, the action era in the 80s. Then Stallone was doing a lot of the action movies, and great action movies. And then Chuck Norris came in and did the action movies, and Van Damme came in and did action movies. So there was so many of the guys that were playing these action stars, and every weekend you saw another movie coming out. And so it was really, really terrific. And now people are trying to bring that era back. And so that's why they're coming to me and saying, can you do another Commando? Can you do another Predator? Can you do another Conan? And so on. So I think it's really great when you're like, almost 79 years old, and then you demand for doing more movies.
Well, especially since at the start they were like, no, Schwarzenegger, that won't work, and this accent, we have to sort that out. How did you convince them that your surname and that your accent wouldn't hinder your success?
Well, look, I know that from bodybuilding, imagine that here I was this 15-year-old kid, and they said, I want to go to America and I want to be a bodybuilding champion. Yeah, of course, everyone in Austria, especially my parents, thought that I was mentally ill. My mother, when she saw me having pictures hung up on the wall above my bed, of all of those muscle men and boxers and all the stuff that, all the people that I admired, I wanted to look up there and get motivated. So she had the doctor, our house doctor. In the old days, you had house doctors that came to your house. She had the house doctor come to our house, and she told him about what she's concerned about. I said, look at this. I mean, my son has above his bed a naked man hanging there. All his friends have, girls hanging above the bed, if they have anything hanging above the, but he is naked man, they're all just man. And the doctor luckily was smart enough to say, no, this is, he's at the age now where the testosterone is kicking in, it's becoming a man, and there's his man that he idolizes and all that stuff. And I mean, she was so relieved. I mean, she was crying to the doctor saying, oh my God, what happened to my son? Oh God, I thought that he's going to go this way now. All these concerns that she had. So imagine, I grew up with that. Everyone was like kind of suspicious about, what is bodybuilding? This is really weird. So everyone says, no, this is not good. Do an Austrian sport, do skiing, do running, or play tennis, or play golf. And I had no interest in that. My interest was in just lifting, because everyone told me in the gym when I started working out, you have a lot of potential. Look at this, look at your muscles grow, look at your chest, look at your back. So it was the first time I really was getting compliments, at that age, at age 15. I never got compliments at home, everything was always wrong that I did. So I was like, really, I became part of that community. And so I heard the no's, the no, and it can't be done all the time. And so when you read my book, Be Useful, you will see one of the chapters in there is about don't listen to the naysayers. Because you can never become successful if you listen to the naysayers. And so, of course, you have to imagine now this bodybuilder that is winning now Mr. Olympia one after the next, and Mr. Universe, and I become the greatest bodybuilder of all times. And then all of a sudden I go and say to the studio executive, I want to get into acting. Well, studio executives and agents said immediately, they said, look, it's not going to work. You can never be a leading man because you have an accent. And plus, look at your body weight. You're too huge. Hercules movies are out. They don't do Hercules movies anymore. This is the 70s. You know, there's people like, you know, Woody Allen. He's a sex symbol now in the 70s. Dustin Hoffman, Al Pacino. They all weigh 140 pounds. You weigh 250, you're too big. So this is the way it was. No, 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 it can't be done. This is, you're in the wrong direction. We help you with a health food store, opening up a health food store. Or we can help you with opening up a gym. But I had no interest to open up a gym. I want to be a movie star. So those are two different things. So, I mean, I didn't listen to the naysayers. I just basically said to myself, okay, to win Mr. Olympia, it took me 5 hours a day. And I'm going to go now and put in 5 hours a day to train for my acting career. I took acting lessons and stunt lessons and English lessons and speech lessons and all of this stuff, including, you would laugh, accent removal lessons. I should have fired that person in no time. But the bottom line was, you know, the Germans, you know, have certain problems with this, how to pronounce words, you know, like 3,333. So my accent coach said, no, you have to have said TH. 3,333 and 1/3. And so you know, so that's so anyway, so you work on those things. And I remember that it was also in German, was the difficulty with the F and the V and the W's. So that the coach had me say, a fine wine grows on a vine. So there's the F and the W and the V. And so, okay, so I said those things like 1,000 times a day. And the sink is made out of zinc. He said, this one is the sink with an S, and one is a vibrating S, zinc, zinc. And then there's a Z. So, okay, I mean, I didn't quite understand it in the beginning, but eventually you get with the program and you do all that stuff, because English is it's kind of a weird thing, you know, like I'm doing this scene, this action scene, and I'm saying, I'm going to kill you with this knife. And the director comes to me and says, what the fuck did you say? Knife? He says, we're always doing your speech classes. He says, there's no knife. It's a knife. This is a knife. So I said, oh. He says, you don't understand it. You don't pronounce the K. I said, okay. All right, let's do it again. Action, Arnold. I'm going to go and kill you with this knife. She said, cut. This is, it's kill you with the knife. I said, you said I shouldn't say the K. So this is how it goes, right? I mean, it's like total chaos. And so this is the kind of stuff that I went through in the beginning. It's to really get with the program. But I mean, I did it. And then, like I said, Lucille Ball called me one day and she asked me to be in her show. And then from that point on, bang, I started getting jobs, little jobs, bigger jobs, and bigger jobs, eventually to Conan. So I didn't listen to the naysayers.
Very good. I feel like the Ilmi with the knife would have been a great catchphrase. And you have, I mean, how many one-liners? You all have favorite one-liners, I'm sure. Which of your one-liners is your favorite?
You know, I don't have a favorite. It's just, I have to say that none of them, you know, were planned to be famous one-liners. No, I'll be back was just, we were arguing on the set about I'll be back because Jim Norman said, Jim Cameron said that I should say I'll be back. And I said, well, why don't I just say, I will be back? As more like machine-like. And he says, no, just say, I'll be back. I shoot it 10 different ways if you want, but let me just say, I'll be back. And so we did that. And then someone after the movie came up to me and said, can you say this line that you said in the movie, I'll be back? And I said, I'll be back. And this guy looked at me kind of like I was nuts. No. I want you to say it the way you said it in the movie. And they said, oh, okay, I'll be back. And so the guy said, yeah, that's the one. Oh my God. And he ran off to another one of his friends. He says, he said the line exactly like in a movie. So this way they realized, wait a minute, what was so special about this line? And then other people came up to me, and then, I mean, the rest is history. It became the most used and most famous movie line of all times.
How many?
And so then you know, other lines came about, but there was more like the way I pronounced it rather than just the line. You know, it's like when I was in Commander, I was sticking a guy in Predator, I was sticking a guy with a knife in the chest, with a knife in the chest, and I said, stick around. So that became a line then. And then, you know, and Predator and I said, you know, get to the chopper!
We all
so
wanted to hear that.
That became the line, and then, you know, hasta la vista, baby. You know, so that became a line. So it was like, you know, put the cookie down, you know. So all of those kind of things, but it's the way I pronounce it. You know, it's not a tumor. You know, in the movie I said tumor with a D. It's not a tumor. It's not a tumor at all. And so the kids laughed. And then the director said, I'm going to keep that in because it makes everyone laugh. It makes the kids laugh, so maybe the people laugh too, and they did. So it's just the way I pronounce things sometimes. It's what makes it then kind of like a usable line and how people then use it. Now I ride around with the bicycle in Santa Monica when I go to the gym and I work out, and the people scream from across the street, get to the chopper, or someone says, hasta la vista, baby, you know, I'll be back. So I hear all these movie lines as I'm riding around with the bike. So I never ever thought that it would happen. So, you know, you never know. But I'm happy that you know, these lines became that famous, the movies became that famous, and those movies were really very, very successful movies.
They were, and one of the films which actually, if you saw the list of movies that you've made and you knew how successful they all were, you might not have expected Twins to be up there as one of the most lucrative. It's brilliant, but you'd have thought that Terminator would have been more lucrative than Twins.
Well, the interesting thing is that whenever they ask on a quiz show people about, you know, what was Schwarzenegger's first movie that made over $100 million domestically, an action movie or a comedy? Everyone says it was an action movie. But the fact was it was a comedy. It was Twins. Twins was the first movie that made over $100 million, it made $128 million in America, and then it made overseas also around $130 million. And it was like the most successful movie then, and they didn't want to pay me for Twins because they said, we're taking a risk. You know, we want to continue doing action movies with you, but I mean, how do we know that this movie is going to be successful? I said, don't pay me. It's perfectly fine with me. I said, let's just make it simple, we all take a risk. I said, you don't pay me, I do the movie, and they own 1/3 of the movie. They said, okay, that's a good deal.
Oh, for you.
And the movie made, I have to tell you, but the movie made like, I'd say, $250+ million worldwide.
Wow.
So, I mean, I like that ownership, right? So, it's all about having, you know, kind of the confidence in yourself and investing in yourself. And it's again the naysayers. The naysayers will stop you, and the naysayers will kind of slow you down, but I never let that happen. And I just, you know, moved forward because I was always very determined. And I knew that it was hard working. It was never kind of like I was trying to pull back and not work hard, because I believe one of the chapters in my book, Be Useful, is work your ass off, because there is no shortcut to work. Work, work, work. And that's as simple as that. I always prepare really well for the movies. I always really prepared very well for the bodybuilding competitions. I always work very hard on after-school programs that I'm running in America, on the Arnold Classic, and everything that I do, I work really hard because I love working, especially when you work towards something that you see that you can accomplish, you know. And to me, for instance, to this the Arnold Classic is just heaven, because I wanted to make bodybuilding really big, and it has become so big now, you know, that we're literally like, I mean, there's not one hotel in the world that doesn't have a bodybuilding gym now. You know, there's no hospital that doesn't have a rehab center that uses weights. There's no rehab facility anywhere that doesn't use weight resistance. I mean, there's no police station without weights. There's no fire station without weights. Every university has, you know, big weight rooms. Every military facility has big weight rooms. No matter where you go, there's weights and machines and weights. I mean, isn't that heaven? We finally have gotten to that stage, and let's be honest.
Can I ask you, Arnold, you have done so much. I mean, you got to where you wanted to in bodybuilding. You have conquered Hollywood. I mean, you've had your stint in politics as well. Is there anything that you would like to do that you haven't done?
Well, I mean, I've said that several times before. I would have liked to run for president of the United States, but because I was not born in the United States, so therefore the Constitution says that you can't. And I'm not going to complain about it, because, you know, everything that I have been able to accomplish in my life is because of America. And so I'm not going to complain about the only thing that I can't do, which is run for president. I'm not going to complain about that. And we have so much great talent in America right now. So anyway, but the bottom line is, I was happy with the governorship, and but I tell you, I mean, as soon as I said, even to my wife, that I want to run for governor, she says, "Oh, don't be crazy. This will never work." And my friends immediately said, "No, they're going to eat your life." You know how the politicians are. They're going to eat your life, and they're going to paint you as this horrible person who says you shouldn't even get into it and all of that stuff. But you know something? I had the balls to do it. I jumped in there, announced it at the night show, and 2 months later, I was the governor of the state of California. You know,
Impressive.
So.
Very good. 2 terms as well.
The bottom line is what it really means is, and I'm not trying to show off, but I mean, I think one thing I've proven is anything is possible. I mean, I'm literally a farm boy from Austria that has grown up on farms, and my father was a police officer, my mother was just the homekeeper, just the Hausfrau, and I come out under this kind of circumstances. It's quite normal. It's very strict upbringing and all that stuff. But it just shows you that anything is possible if you have a vision, if you have a very clear goal. And this is what I was gifted with, is that I always had a very clear goal. And the reason why I'm saying that this is very important is because so many people are unhappy with what they do. In America, one time, just by coincidence, I was just checking out a study how many people like their jobs, you know, whatever they do. And I found out that 78% of the people hate their job. I mean, think about that. 78% of the people hate their job. But how is that fun to get up in the morning and to go to a job that you hate? And so this never has happened to me. There were moments that I didn't like, but I mean, I always had a very clear vision. I mean, to me, every rep that I did for bodybuilding was a rep getting closer to that goal. So I had fun to do another rep, another set, another weight, another pound. I was happy in the gym because I was chasing a goal. And the same is also in acting. To me, I saw it very clearly that I can be another Clint Eastwood or Charles Bronson or any of those old action guys. I can do that. It just, you know, I got to go and work towards that. And I had this vision, and there was no one that could stop me. But it was fun. The struggle was fun. To go to those 4-hour acting classes and the speech classes and this and that. It was fun to do because I knew every time I went, it got me one step closer to that goal. And so this is why I always say to people, I said, the most important thing that you have to have is a goal. Just like when you wake up in the morning and you walk out of the house, you have a very clear goal of where you're gonna go. You go to the gym, or you're gonna go and go for breakfast, or you go to work, whatever you do, but you know what you're gonna do. Well, I want you all to have that for your whole life, to have a specific plan, because you can have the best airplane in the world, but if the pilot does not know where to go, eventually it's gonna crash. And that's what happens to people's lives. Their lives crash. They get depressed. They hate their job. You know, they get confused. They don't know what to do now because there's no goal there. And so many young people today have this problem that they don't know where they want to go. I ask in the gym young people all the time, I said, so if Jeannie is coming out of the bottle on the beach and says to you, you can do anything you want. I said, what would it be? What is it that you would be? They look at me and they say, I said, no, this is not a plan. It's not a plan. I say, what is it? As if someone would have asked me when I was 15, what do you want to be ideally? I say, I want to be Mr. Universe. I want to be another Reg Park. I want to go into the movies like him and to do Hercules movies. I want to make millions of dollars. I want to just be like Reg Park. I had a plan. Within seconds. So just ask yourself, what do you want to be? Where do you want to go? And it takes sometimes not just minutes or hours to figure that out. It takes sometimes weeks, months, years. I had all the time in the world in Austria because there was no television. There was no iPhone, no iPad, no computer. The only thing we had that was technical was a radio. We didn't even have a telephone. So think about that, how much time I had to think and to start visualizing and to create a vision for myself. That's what most people don't do. They just go on the internet and they want to copy someone else. You can't copy someone else. You have to do the work. It's you. It's about your life. And so this is why it's so great when someone gets into the bodybuilding sport. That really helps you because you're getting into something where you realize, I have to have a goal. Because in bodybuilding, you cannot just go into a gym and say, I'm going to go into some curls. I said, for what? I want to do some calf raises. For what? I said, what's the reason? Are we training for getting better in tennis? Or are we training to get better in running? Or to become a decathlon athlete? Or to become a competitive bodybuilder? Or a power lifter? Or a weightlifter? Every single training is different. Every single training is different. So you have to know exactly what your goal is, otherwise you get lost in the gym. You start doing a set over here and a set over there and a set over there, and then you talk a little bit and all this stuff. I see those people in the gym too. When they say to them, I sit in a life cycle and they say to them, what are you training for? I say, oh, my doctor told me that I should lose a few pounds. No vision. So then, of course, it becomes a burden to work out. Oh my God, I got to go to the gym again because the doctor said so, rather than, oh, I have a specific plan. Next summer, when they see me on the beach, they're gonna be so jealous because my waistline is gonna be so skinny, My abs are gonna be so ripped. My deltoids are gonna pop out that you can see me from 100 yards away, and I will look like a god. Yeah, stupid things like that. And it works. It works. Because you have to have those goals. You have to have a specific goals. This is why I would say, you know, I gave you just out, you know, 3 ideas of how to become successful. I said, first is a vision, work your ass off, and don't listen to the naysayers. And of course, the most important one is at the end, when I talk about it in my book, when I say give something back. Give something back, because we all are a product of help. If it is your parents that have helped you, no matter if you like them or not. I had a rough upbringing. I was beaten all the time by my dad and all this kind of stuff. But I love my dad. The day I can sit here and say, I love my dad. You know why? Because if I wouldn't have had this upbringing, I would have never had the urge to be the greatest, or the urge to move away from Austria, or the urge to move to America and to be something great and to prove to him. Because inside you always want to prove to your parents, you're full of crap. Wait when I grow up, what I'm gonna become. Right? We all have that. And so, to me, that upbringing was perfect. It was the perfect combination. So I thank him for that upbringing, because it made me who I am today. And so, you know, it's hating your parents and not liking them and all of this. No, we appreciate what your parents did. No matter what they did, we appreciate it, and we appreciate what the coaches did and what the teachers did and all of that stuff. We all are like people always say, they write a story about me, they say, Arnold is the perfect example of a self-made man. And I say, I'm not a self-made man. It's the wrong story. I'm a product of all the things I just said, and then my bodybuilding companions, my bodybuilding buddies, my training partners. Then Joe Weider brought me to America. Who made me Mr. Universe? The judges voted for me. I didn't make myself Mr. Universe. Who made me a movie star? You all, the audience. If you have no one going to the movies, you're not a movie star. You're a loser. And I hate losers, by the way. But this is the reality of it. How did I become governor of California? 5.8 million people voted for me. I didn't make myself governor. See what I'm saying? So it's like, who helped me with all the stunt guys? Who dressed me in the movies? The wardrobe people. Who built the sets? The set designers and the contractors and all that. So I mean, imagine the amount of people that helped me get where I am today. So of course, when you recognize that you are a product of a lot of help, then you also recognize the fact that you have to also help and give something back to your community, give something back to your city, to your country. And so this is why I got involved in Special Olympics in the 70s. That's why I got involved in after-school programs and started after-school programs for millions of kids in America. That's why I got involved in the President's Council on Fitness and started traveling through all 50 states promoting health and fitness in America under President Bush. That's why I ran for governor, because I wanted to serve the people. I didn't want to be a politician. I hate politicians. I do. Because they all kind of make big promises, but then they don't keep them. Doesn't matter what party they're in. I wanted to be a public servant. That's why I want to be governor, to serve not just the Republicans, not just the right wing, because I am more to the right. No, I wanted to serve all 40 million people of California. To me, everyone is equal. Doesn't matter if you're Democrat or Republican or decline to stay. I wanted to serve all of them. And so this is the kind of stuff that you do then when you realize that you have to give something back. Now, I know there's some people out there that say, well, what can I do? I'm just a poor bastard. I don't have anything. Well, that maybe it's true, but you have something. You. There's no reason why you cannot help some kid with the reading if maybe English is a second language for them. There's no reason why I cannot join up to the Special Olympics and to help some people that have intellectual disabilities or something like that, or to help people that are coming back from war and that are injured and that need a little break. I mean, there's so many things. I mean, I tell you, like in Los Angeles, we have 68,000 homeless. And it really annoyed me when I saw veterans that have fought for us in some war or the other, and them sleeping on the street now. So I said to the city, I said, why are you having veterans sleeping out on the street? Well, it takes time to build. I said, it takes time? So what I did was I went to the Veterans Administration. I said, can we have a little bit of your land here? They said, yes. They said, why? I said, because I want to build how many homes, Ketchel, did we build? 25, sorry, 25 homes. I said, I want to have room so we can build 25 little homes for veterans, to bring them inside the Veterans Administration rather than having them sleep outside on the streets. And a month later, this was on Thanksgiving, which is in November. In December, we lit the Christmas tree in this little community of 25 homes for veterans. A month later, 1 month later, and then I went to the city and I said, you see how full of shit you guys are? I did this in 1 month as an individual, not as a city. And you're telling me that it takes years and years and years to help these homeless people? Then we found out a month later that they lost $24 billion that was meant for the homeless, and no one could find it. This is the kind of stuff that goes on in politics. See, this is why I lost respect for those people, because it's unbelievable. Because there's no reason they have 68,000 people living on the streets. So anyway, so I got involved. But why did I get involved? I didn't want to look the other way. No, I said, wait a minute, this is the country. This is the city where I made my fortune. Los Angeles, Muscle Beach, Hollywood. This is where I made my fortune. This is where I built my career. I'm not going to just watch people homeless lying there on the streets and stuff like that. I'm going to get involved, and I'm going to go and help them. So this is why I say, give something back. Whatever you can do, it can be the smallest thing, but give something back.
Very good indeed. I am now going to ask you to give something back here. We have some questions that have been submitted from the audience. Now, the first is not really a question, but Darren and Darlene are in here somewhere, right? And Darren and Darlene are newlyweds. Arnold, they have got married today, and they have come here to see you on their wedding day. And they just said, could you just give them a blessing because they've come? You're part of their wedding day.
Absolutely. First, let's give them a big hand. I think that's fantastic.
Congratulations.
I mean, it's very clear. I found out marriage is about 3 rings. The engagement ring, the wedding ring, and the suffering. Anyway, just joking. I think that marriage is fantastic. I think it's great when you see something like where people get married in some event like this. I've seen at the Arnold Classic where someone would win the Arnold Classic and then propose on stage with the trophy right there to their fiancée and or to their girlfriend, and they got engaged right there and they proposed. And I've seen the World's Strongest Man competition where guys won the competition and then they proposed. I mean, I've seen the wildest kind of things. It's really romantic. It's nice, and you know, to use an event like that is fantastic. I think that if you want to go and then come backstage, I take a picture with you afterwards, okay?
Very
so
nice. Oh,
We
Dar-
can
Darren and Darlene.
make that the official wedding shot.
Okay. Okay, Darren and Darlene, come over here and we will sort this out for you. And
Oh, yes.
congratulations.
Oh, yeah.
Right, we have another question now. This is from Will. Were there any movie roles you turned down that, in hindsight, you wish you had taken?
Oh, yeah. There's several of them. And, but, you know, it doesn't matter how I feel the day or how I felt afterwards, because I couldn't do the movies. I mean, I was booked. I used to do 2 movies a year. And so when someone said, can you do another movie? I said, no, I can't. Because I have a family, I have children, and I have to be at home at some point. And my wife did a great job with the kids when I was on a set and I was off filming and all that stuff. I mean, she was an extraordinary mother and fantastic, really. I never had to worry about it. So I just wanted to have a balance there between family life and, you know, movies. And the same was in politics. I mean, it was like very tough to be in politics and to be a governor and to promise the people that they're your number one interest. But also your family says, aren't we your number one interest? It's clear. So, I mean, so I had my kids sometimes when I came home from work, you know, cry on the table because I didn't go to their recital or I didn't go to their football practice or whatever it is. So it's very tough. So this is why it was good to have a balance there, but that's why I turned some of those movies down.
Yeah, I heard that one of them was Die Hard. And it just, the only reason I'm saying that is because, you know, Bruce Willis has that line, you know, the yippee, that one. I just wonder how you'd have said it differently. That would have been quite an interesting catchphrase.
It would have been interesting, yeah, exactly.
He's not giving us it. Okay, Dan says, what career would you have got into if not bodybuilding?
I don't think there would have been anything else that I was really interested in. I mean, I was in the military in Austria, and I really enjoyed the military service. I was a tank driver, and if I wouldn't have had bodybuilding, I probably would have worked my way up the ranks in the military, because I really enjoyed that life. I always like to be part of a community, and I think this is why we started the Pump Club. You know, when you look at the Pump Club, thank you. It's all about creating a community. And why is that important? This is because with a community, you can support each other. I don't think that we are capable on our own to handle everything. I think it is much better that when you have a problem or challenge, that you have people around you that can give you advice or that kind of, you know, help you along the way. And so I always was a big believer in community, and I saw the community in bodybuilding. It didn't matter where I went. If I would travel to America, I was picked up by bodybuilders the first time I arrived in America. I was picked up by bodybuilders and taken to a place to stay. It was bodybuilders that helped me to get the dishes and the silverware and the blankets and the pillows and the black and white TV when I moved to America. It was bodybuilders that picked me up when I went to Japan or to China or to South Africa, or no matter where I went. So it was just a community that was always helpful. And so I always feel like this is so important to have a community. And like, for instance, in the Pump Club, people help each other. I don't even have to do a lot of the work now anymore and make suggestions. And that is because the people that are in the community now, that are part of the Pump Club, they help each other. And it's wonderful to see that. So I always think that it is good to join something. That's why I enjoyed, I think, the military also.
Absolutely. Okay, Ian from Ireland is here. Who is the best actress that you've shared a film with, and why?
I think that actors, I mean, it's Jamie Lee Curtis, go crazy and they don't get involved in gangs and in alcohol, drugs, and violence and all that stuff. I enjoy that, so why would I retire from that? Why would I retire from bodybuilding when I love going to the gym? I have my home gym, but I love going to the public gym to hang out with the people and to just work out. I love that. I mean, why would I stop doing movies when I love being on a set and doing a movie. So why would I stop that? So I said, you know, I think we have enough time to be retired when we are 6 feet under. And so then we rest and then we retire. And then we hang out. But I mean, while I'm on this side of the grass, I like to just keep doing things because it's fun to do. Absolutely. I'm having a good time every day.
Pleased to hear it. Arnold, I know you have a lot of pets, and Casey wants to know, how many pets do you have, and do you have a favorite? I remember chatting to you here once, and you were on the screen, and I think it was a donkey that appeared alongside you. Would that be correct?
Well, this is all, I don't know how I got into that. It's like, you know, my daughter had a pony. And then for some reason or other, when she started dating, she totally kind of like dropped the pony. I mean, she didn't, you know, take him out anymore. She didn't take care of him anymore. She went to visit him, her, I should say, is a female, visit her like once a week, but that was it. So I said, I'm gonna bring the pony up to my house because I have 2.5 acres of flat land. So I said, I'm gonna build a little stall there and have the pony there. Then my girlfriend said, she grew up with horses. She says, you know, the pony doesn't like to be by herself. We should get a companion. I said, okay. So she got me for Christmas a donkey, a miniature donkey. So that those two fell in love with each other, and they were hanging out always together, and that was it. And they're really funny characters, you know. I realized that they come into the kitchen all the time, and they get their cookies, and as soon as you have a cookie in the hand, they do anything. And I take them upstairs to the gym in the house, in the bedroom, to just take a picture of it. So it's funny. They have a donkey and a pony in the bedroom. And then I take them downstairs again. And it's just all this. So then the woman that got us the donkey called us one day and she says, I have a Malamute dog. Now, they get really big, these dogs. And I said, do you want one? I said, well, yeah. I said, why not? And so, you know, I had already a dog, right? So I said, hey, let's just get another one. And then, so we got the Malamute. Then she says, you know, oh, she called me back a year later and she says, oh, now I have this Leonberger, you know, and mixed with Newfoundland. And he gets also really big. So she brought that dog down, and that dog got really big. So one weighs 170 pounds, and the other one weighs 150 pounds. And the Leonberger. And then she called and she says, I have 5 pigs. And then I don't need 5 pigs, so I'm trying to get rid of 2 of them. You want a pig? I said, sure, why not? So we had a pig coming down. And the pig, of course, you know, loves coming into the house and loves to eat and sleep in the house and all of that. It just feels like one of the dogs. So now I have this whole zoo, you know, with the 3 dogs, and I have the miniature pony and miniature donkey, and I have the pig and all that stuff. They all roam around in the kitchen in the morning when I come downstairs at 6 in the morning, and I feed them every morning at 6 in the morning in the kitchen, and they all just somehow get along, even though they snap at each other every so often. But I mean, they get along, and it is very, very entertaining to watch that when they feed the animals and they do their thing. I mean, it's just wonderful. So it's just another fun thing that I discovered that is really very entertaining for me.
Sounds like there is never a quiet moment at your house.
No quiet moment, no.
It has been an absolute joy to have you here chatting with us today. Thank you. Thank you for all the advice you've shared, the words of wisdom, and thank you for letting us in to so many of the stories from your movie career as well. It's been brilliant, hasn't it? It really has.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Thank you. Thank you all.